the split second decisions that, officers have to make, and, some of which are life and death. And conversely, from the citizens' perspective, I think, the police unions and others that feel they're not being supported by the community need to understand some of the historical references that many people in certain communities have experienced over decades. And, it's like anything else. When you have experienced things, or you have a history of hearing about these experiences from your parents or your relatives or people that are important in your village, that does leave an impression on you. And so I just think that this is a tremendous missed opportunity for there to be a collaborative situation to work through this, because as you heard me say before, then bad, no community, no agency can be successful without the support of the community. The community needs the police, and the police need the community. And until there's a real effort to make that happen, you're going to continue to have folks on way over here on this side of the issue, and then 30 miles away on the other side of the issue, lobbing grenades across the bow. And it's never going to get better.
Yeah, I don't, these last couple of cases, the George Floyd, I can't think of the brother's name, in Atlanta, who was asleep in the Wendy's, who took the man's taser.
Right.
Cops ain't doing too good with tasers here. These past couple of things. One getting taken, the other one can't shoot it right. I don't know. It's just a hard sell. You get to the point where you try to say, you know what, I'm trying to hold out hope that it's going to be different, or it's going to be something else. But then when you put all of what's going on, and then you come on the heels of that crazy convention, that just seems, and you've got a voice in DC that's not even going to address it. Only deals with the one side, only wants to deal with the quote unquote lawlessness and the looting and the burning, and doesn't want to deal with the things that brought all that to bear. Not saying that that's the answer or that's what people ought to do, but you got to listen to that. As people have said, the riots and uprisings are the voice of the folks who haven't been heard.
Sure. And already I've gotten a text from Phil, and
I know.
And I didn't. Phil's way ahead of me, as he always is. Phil's on it, and he said we're dancing around the issue. Why did the officer have his weapon drawn while following the person? And right. that was going to be my next thing to sort of get into the tactical part of this. But since Phil brought it up, I mean, when you look at the tactics that were used, I don't think there's any question that those tactics need to be looked at really, really closely, because number one, you're running around behind a guy, you grab him by his shirt, and you have your weapon out. And think about this. I don't know how much you know about firearms, but a semi-automatic weapon, particularly when you fire the first shot, the next shots require like no pounds of pressure to squeeze off the next round. I mean, you just pop, 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 pop. Okay. Now imagine your adrenaline's already flowing. You got a guy by the shirt. He makes some kind of movement into the car. You're holding his shirt. You're already thinking he's going to grab a weapon. You don't even have enough distance to figure out what the hell's going on. Yes.
Doesn't that get into how he approaches, to Phil's point, and what I was trying to say earlier? If if you got your gun drawn and one hand on somebody's shirt, and you don't have enough sense to put your gun down because the person's not turning around to fight you at that point, try to tackle them, take them down or something and figure it out. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is in that particular case, because, that's what I'm trying to get to. The man is like, to Phil's point, why have the gun drawn already? You've already considered this cat guilty of something in your mind, or he's about to do something in your mind. If you already have your gun and have a gun on him, even if he's trying to get back to his car, even if he had an arsenal in his car, to me, as an officer and as a human being, I'm trying to stop him. I know when we were growing up and somebody said they going out to their car, you do whatever you could to keep that Negro from his car. You say, oh, hell no, you're not going to get back to the car. He said, I'll be back. Oh, no, because if he's going to come back, either you're not going to be in the place when he comes back, or you're not going to let him get to that car. But, that's just common sense. So why he didn't try to stop him from getting to the car, if he assumed that he had a weapon, and if he thought there was something there, then you stop him before you get to the car. Then you don't have, you lose the issue of the shooting. Not to mention the dude is a bad shot. You shoot somebody 7 times and you don't kill him. You just do. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, and you that close?
Yeah.
I think Stevie Wonder would have took somebody out if he was that close on somebody with a gun. I mean, God, dog. But and the dude wasn't like reaching back to like fight the cop. It wasn't any altercation. He just wasn't slowing down. He wasn't stopping. And the cop was like pulling on his shirt. How long did he think that T-shirt was going to last? It just, to Phil's point, there's a whole lot of stuff there that's like, why did you have, this is where we get into the whole psyche and the mindset. When you confront this person, you have already made certain decisions and you've already made certain calculations in your head as how you're going to treat them based on what you're seeing in front of you. Well, and if you already think that there's a criminal, that you already think that he's got a problem, that he's going to have a gun, that you're in danger, you're going to respond in that way, and it's going to just escalate the situation.
And you're right about that. And again, when you talk about missed opportunities, and you alluded to it earlier, you were talking about Monday morning quarterbacking. Well, actually, these are the type of incidents that should be Monday morning quarterbacked by every agency across the country. In fact, every time an incident of this type occurs, agencies should be sitting down, playing those tapes in roll call and other places and discussing these incidents, using the available information that they have, of course, like the rest of us are doing. But this is the perfect time to talk about these things while they're fresh. Enough for you don't want to second guess an officer. No, what you really need to do is when that incident happens on Thursday night, Friday morning, that thing should be being discussed in roll calls across the country and in training divisions across the country so that we can look at it, like you were saying, he's pulling on a T-shirt. He's got his gun out. No agency teaches you to grab a guy by the T-shirt while you've got your gun in your hand. I taught tactics, and I can tell you that's not something that's taught. Now, and yeah, you're going to hear, well, he's in fear for his life and all that other kind of stuff. I get that. But these types of incidents should be discussed and analyzed to the extent that they can across the country so that, number one, you can look at it from the tactical perspective, from the legal perspective, from the civil perspectives, and also from the community perception perspective, because all these dynamics come into play whenever an agency is involved in a controversial incident. And especially now that people are a lot more incensed by incidents of this type. And because if you think about it, then bad, if people are that concerned that now people are protesting in the middle of a pandemic, does it take a rocket scientist to make people understand this is something that's kind of important to people? They're out here in the middle of a pandemic protesting.
Right.
Right. That tells you the level of seriousness that this thing is resonating across the country.
Yeah, these folks will take their chances with they figure, hell, I got a better chance of a pandemic. At least they're working on a vaccine for the coronavirus, but what the hell are they working on for this police virus? To put a hot one in your virus. I mean, this is going on, the killer Negro virus, which is more than the coronavirus virus. I mean, it comes to a point where you have to do something and I try to, every now and then I'll say something that is silly or funny or jokey, because this stuff is heavy. And I'm not in any way trying to make light of what is happening, but some of it is so ridiculous. To your point, I've never, I can't recall any. It's either this was the first particular case, and maybe this is why it was so strange to me, that I've seen, where either it's a close-up chokehold or something where they're taking somebody down and they're choking them out, or they're at a distance firing shots. This dude was in between the two. He was trying to work his way up to a choke or something. It's like he wanted to grab him, and then he's shooting. He's got his gun drawn at the same time. I mean, it's just like, it just seems like it was a total breakdown, whatever it was. Which brings another question. Another question comes to mind is when you try to, as a trainer, if you're training the cops, and you're training other officers, when they're in those situations, you train for these particular situations. But when they find themselves in this situation, does the adrenaline kick in so much to the point that, did he employ anything? Did you see anything in what he was doing that would look like something that was, that he learned in training? It didn't look like he did anything that he would have learned in training. That's not textbook police officer stuff. That's street. If he didn't have a suit, a police uniform on, I'd have thought it was two people fighting. I mean, that looked like a fight. He didn't look like he did nothing professional. Did they get him off the street? I mean, are they hard up for police officers in Wisconsin? What is going on? I mean, that was no better than what he was doing. And I ain't been to train for nothing. I don't understand what he's doing. I mean, does that stuff really, I know adrenaline pumps, but you know how you say people have muscle memory because they do things for so long. I mean, does that stuff fit in? Does it sink into the officers, or does fear kind of take over and adrenaline rules the day, and they just do whatever they get caught doing?
Well, you have the combination of fear and adrenaline, and that you saw probably a combination of both in that situation. And sometimes adrenaline could kick in and you don't take that half a second. We used to always train folks to say, look, just take a nanosecond and know your surroundings, know where there's a place of cover, or just be able to retreat or something of that nature, to give you that extra second or two to figure out what's going on. Now, that's not always possible, but in a lot of situations it is. And, you could see that adrenaline going, the guy's running, the officer jumps on and grabs his T-shirt, and, we know the results. Now, what you have, then, Bad, you've got one hell of a mess. You've got a guy that was shot 7 times in the back who's never going to walk again. And quite honestly, with the description of his injuries, you don't know how long a person can live with that kind of extensive damage. I mean, he's missing most of his intestines, and his kidney and his liver was severely damaged, and he's paralyzed. So, I mean, this young man has a long way to go in terms of any type of a quest towards normalcy. And then the other thing is the trauma that this has created for those children. I mean, we have no idea how long that'll last. And let me say this, for example, let's just say after the investigation, it shows X, Y, and Z, and then there is a civil settlement. Well, how long do you think this will sit in the minds of those children? Is it 2 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 50 years? Who the hell knows? I mean, you remember a couple of shows ago, Thin Bad, when Bubba Knight was talking about an incident when his dad was stopped by the police that happened over 60 years ago. And that's still traumatic to him.
Still on his mind.
It's still on his mind. And he said he still tears up with that. And so we don't know what type of impact this is going to have on those 3 kids. And, that's another very tragic part of this situation.